final leg of a journey that has taken nearly 50 years and spanned 2 continents will end this Sunday. Struggle icon John Beaver, known as JB Marks, his mortal remains are to be reburied at the special official funeral at Ventersdorp in the Northwest Province. JB Marks' remains, together with that of Moses Kotane, were repatriated from Moscow in Russia at the beginning of this month. Both anti-apartheid veterans' remains were exhumed in Russia, where they were buried in exile in the 1970s. Kotane's remains were buried last Saturday at his home village of Pella, near Rustenburg. The remains of SACP and ANC stalwart JB Marks arrived at his family home in Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg yesterday. Marks' remains will be reburied on Sunday in Ventersdorp, the northwest town where he was born. The family say they are disappointed that he will not be reburied next to his wife, who was laid to rest in Johannesburg in the year 2000. Now, the Minister of Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, joins us in studio today. Minister Nyambose Kunjani. Thank you. It's going to be a very busy weekend. How do we manage all the official protocols across the country that has to be observed this weekend without diminishing any of them?
Well, we've got to do our best to ensure that all of them are accorded their status, because they are all important, including the third one, which is the Human Rights Day and activities in Utenek, Eastern Cape. So I think it is going to be a busy week, and referring to our stalwart, Uncle JB, he really would be reinterred, as you said, back to his village town. And it has been a long way for him in his involvement in the struggle, spanning from the 20s, the 1920s, up until his death in 1972.
JB Marks, it's almost ironic, this town that it comes from. It's known in South Africa as a very conservative town. Can you tell us about the arrangements for this weekend in this town, and also talk a little bit about the life of JB Marks and what he meant to other struggle icons like Nelson Mandela, like Walter Sisulu?
Well, he meant a lot. JB Marks, like Moses Kotane. In fact, it's very difficult to talk about one and not mention the other. If you look at the road they've traversed in the struggle for liberation, they've always been working together. Mainly, we can attribute to them the alliance, as people know it today, of the ANC, SACP and COSATU, that in all these formations, they were key at their formative stages. And they ensured that tradition continues. Yeah. With JB Marks coming as he was from a very, challenged sector for our society, which is the mining sector, and rising to be the first president of the union there, and in the Communist Party and the African National Congress. So they contributed in shaping and molding the younger youth leaguers at the time, the likes of Madiba, who had their views about the Communist Party. But later on, with persuasion from these two leaders, they, embraced the alliance itself. And as you would know, that you wouldn't have said anything against the Communist Party to Madiba, the one we knew. But the earlier one was very much opposed to the SACP, the Communist Party of South Africa at the time.
It wouldn't be right for me not to ask you about the other official funeral that's taking place in Chikundu village tomorrow. It's been a real big setback. I don't think people realize how big this setback is for the ANC and for South Africa, and especially for the province of Limpopo, the untimely death of Collins Chabane.
Well, yes, it's really a blow for for the entire of our nation. This province had, witnessed two stalwarts of the struggle, if I may put it that way, earlier on in the year, and now we have Minister Chabane. Comrade Collins epitomized what the movement is and what it should be. Those very values of our movement, of selflessness, of humility, of being principled and firm on that, but also, flexible on tactic. But he as a person was this unassuming but towering giant whose presence you'll feel even when he's not saying anything.
Mr. Minister, I understand you have a full program today, but before you go, I want to ask you about Human Rights Day. Here in South Africa today, one get a sense that amongst the youth, we are frivolous about the freedoms that we enjoy, the price that we paid at places like Sharpeville, where 69 people were killed in 1960. It would be 55 years ago tomorrow. Tell us about this hard-fought freedom and what our purpose and what we should do and how we should respect these freedoms on days like Human Rights Day.
Well, we've got to always recognize the injustices of the past, as the Constitution would say, and honor those who fought for freedom and justice in our land. With the benefit of hindsight, I think that part of the reason why people would take for granted whatever we have is that perhaps we have not emphasized more on the horrors of colonialism and apartheid. And that has created a particular picture, because we've got to say that as we move forward in reconstructing our country, we should always not forget where we come from. Forgive, yes, but not forget, because if we forget, we may find ourselves going back unwittingly or wittingly. Right now, we have challenges of racism, of Afrophobia amongst Africans, of sexism and so on and so forth, homophobia and all those things. And these are the challenges we are faced with today, which will continue to be a blight in our journey to a just and human rights for all society. But I think that we have it within ourselves to interact more with the public. We have what we call community conversations, where we discuss about these things. And we are calling on all other sectors of society, private sector, the media and everybody, to talk about this. People must know what happened in Sharpeville so that it doesn't repeat.
Mr. Minister, thank you for joining us, for coming in today and giving us such a sober view of where we are as a nation. It's important, the Minister says, forgive, but let's never, ever forget. Tomorrow is Human Rights Day. We will be laying to rest one of our great leaders, a young man at 54 in his home village of Chikundu. We can never forget the contributions that they've made, the contribution that J.B. Marks and Moses Kotane has made to the liberation struggle in our country, to the freedoms that you and myself enjoy in this country today. We've paid a heavy, heavy price. Let's take a look